Trossard again. Ole, ole. Oh, it's a statement win. It's a beautiful win. The mentality is there. Finally, Arsenal go away from home to a big ground and take 3 points. And people will think that's crazy for me to say that because it's Aston Villa. But you know what? It's a top of the table clash now. And Aston Villa have got to be seen as that. They've got to be respected as that. And my God, did we do it? And we did it in style. Trossard again, ole, ole. Oh my goodness, this guy. First touch from substitutes. We're going to talk about his performance. We're going to talk about the defence. We're going to talk about the midfield. And we're going to talk about the front three and the attack of Arsenal. We're going to talk about David Raya. We're going to talk about Ollie Watkins. We're going to talk about Morgan Rogers. There's so much to talk about in this game. But you know what? At one stage, I thought it was actually walking football. It was so stale. It was so boring. It was so slow. It was snail pace by both teams, by the way, not just Arsenal. But we did it. We did it. And that's what matters. For me, there was times in that game where I thought, my goodness, are we actually going to give it a go? Are we actually going to try? Are we going to try and get behind them? Are we going to try and go forwards? Are we going to try and take man on? Are we going to try and pass it around them? It seemed like we were just happy to prat around with it at the back, to be fair. And by them prattling around at the back, there wasn't really anything that went wrong other than Gabriel, who, let's be real, we'll talk about in a minute. Thankfully, they didn't score from it. But actually, we were quite happy to pass it round. And I think that was the game plan. Now, it looked as if the game plan to start with was pass it round and just try to put a long ball over the top and hope that one of them runs onto it. That weren't happening. But for me, I feel, personally, that we dominated the football. Now, there were times where Aston Villa, of course, had their chances. But nobody can tell me that Aston Villa should have won that game because when they get opportunities like that and they fluff their lines, that's on them. It ain't on us. That's on them. So when people have seen so far saying, oh my God, Aston Villa should be this, should be that, should be two, Morgan Rogers been brilliant, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, should be, but weren't. Arsenal were. And for me, I must say, very, 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 very impressed with Morgan Rogers. Very impressed. I thought he was phenomenal. But they didn't have Watkins up top on fire, did they? Not today. Not today. I have to go into some individual performances. But before I do that, as a team, as a collective, this is a statement win. People will look back at this and they will go, yeah, I thought Arsenal were going to lose that game. We saw yesterday the weekend preview on this show. Rich said, I think it will be 3-1 to Villa. Billy said, I'm going to go for 2-1, but I'll sit on the fence and go 1-1 just in case. But really, he thought they were going to win. I was at breakfast with two of my friends this morning. Guy in the pub said, got an Aston Villa screensaver on my phone. That's where I'm going later. I think you're going to lose 2-0. I think we'll do ya. These Villa fans were very confident. And you know what? I can understand why they were. They're playing well. They've got a great manager. They've definitely got a squad. I look at their bench and I actually think, wow, it's quite impressive in comparison to ours even. I look at what they're doing and how they're playing and also the games against us in the last season and maybe in the last few games against Arsenal. They've matched us, they've beaten us, and they've been better than us. But they weren't better than us today. You can't say that Aston Villa outplayed Arsenal. You can't say it's a smash and grab for Arsenal. Smash and grab is when a team is dominating you for over 80 minutes of a game and you go and take the last 10 minutes and win the game 2-0. That wasn't the case. We actually, in the second half, did play some really lovely football. But for me, I've got to start at the back. When I saw the team lineup, I was happy. Jury and Timber coming in instead of Zinchenko. It was the right decision, by the way. It definitely was. But I have to say, I was actually looking forward to us playing against them because Matty Cash was there. Unfortunately, although I believe he would have been the weak link if he would have stayed on long, he didn't stay on long enough. And at right back, he went down, and then they had to obviously take him off. So I personally feel like there was the potential for Aston Villa to revert back to what I thought their team would have started up with Diego Carlos at centre-half and then Konza at right-back. But they brought on their new signing, their young lad. Let's be real, he looked about 18 years old. I don't actually know how old he is. I'm not going to try and butcher his surname because he's got a long surname. But he came on. And if I'm honest with you, we get to the first 8, 9, 10 minutes and we start to look a little bit shaky. Now, we're in a scenario where Gabriel is normally fairly comfortable on the ball. William Saliba, fairly comfortable on the ball. Ben White, very comfortable on the ball. Jurriën Timber, who I thought started the game actually okay, but had a little couple shaky moments, maybe nervy moments, maybe rusty moments. First proper game. But actually, we had a solid back four. Party, I thought, played well. But I look at us defensively and I'm always got a little bit of hope that we can keep a clean sheet. But Gabriel starts prattling around on the ball. I don't quite know where he's going there. I seem to think that he's casual. He thinks he's got too much time on the ball, ends up losing out. And then the ball is squared to Ollie Watkins. And I'm just like, it's 1-0, everyone. He's going to score. Ollie Watkins doesn't miss from there. It's going to be 1-0 and we're going to have to try and come from behind. And he misses the target. I cannot believe he's missed it. I honestly can't believe he's missed that one. And Gary Neville said something really good on the commentary and really important and actually quite ironic. Watkins won't get another chance like that in the game. He has to bury it. Lo and behold, he gets another one. We get to half time. It's been walking football. I'll call it that. Both teams. Nobody really had a go at it. Saka had a really good shot that Martinez did save and put around the post, which I thought was a really good save, actually. But other than that, it was a pretty flat game of football. Saka could have done better, maybe. Good save. Watkins should have done better. Put it wide. That was about it. A few minutes of injury time. We go into the half and we think, do you know what? This is a tough place to go. Are we playing it a little bit safe? Because this is going to be 0-0 if this carries on. Martinelli, I didn't think had a very good game. He tries, he runs around, he's on the ball, but he couldn't beat his man very well. And when he did take it past him, it ran off for a corner or he got tackled. He weren't making things happen. And I think it might be time for him to hold bench and be an impact sub for a while now. Come on with his pace. I would have put him on the bench anyway and started Trossard. And then I would have definitely 100% brought Martinelli on for some pace. Turns out I'm not the manager because the manager knows what he's doing. And he's decided to go with the other way around and the opposites. Kai Havertz in the first half. I mean, it was a pretty meh performance, wasn't it? There was an opportunity I think he should have done better with. There was a couple of opportunities he had where he just got in the way of people. A couple of passes that went astray, but nothing spectacular. I thought Saka, apart from the shot he had that Martinez saved in the first half, was fairly quiet-ish. Not the best. But I have to say, in the second half, we started to come a little bit more alive. I didn't think Declan Rice in the 8 worked that well again today. And I have to say that I kind of miss him in the 6 and think that he is a 6 now. When we come back from Dubai last season in the January, he was playing in the 8 and we were absolutely burying teams. If you remember, we smashed Palace, we smashed West Ham, we smashed Burnley, we smashed Sheffield United, and it was like 4s, 5s and 6s going in. And Rice was in that 8 and I thought, okay, I think he's found his position now. But I forget sometimes how good he was prior to that in the 6. I don't know that he's continued that form in the 8, certainly not this season. In the first 2 games, I know he's not 100% ready and fit, and people are saying that it's because of the Euros, but he should be getting better now, fitness-wise. But my goodness, he's definitely not playing well in the 8 at the moment, in my opinion. I didn't think he was great today. I didn't think he was bad, but I just didn't think he was great. So for me, I think we have to look at him now as a 6. I understand at the moment why he's playing there. Partey did a good job today, and we'll come on to him in a minute. But Marino is definitely going to come in and play in that 8 role. And Rice, I believe, will drop back into that 6. And then you've got Partey and Jorginho as your cover. That's what I think will happen. I really do see that. Because today, I just didn't think that Rice was that outstanding. So I didn't believe he had the best of games. But the second half, let's just be real. The second half, again, I felt we controlled the football, the possession. We were dominant with the ball, but we weren't really doing much about it. But there were a couple of shaky moments. And unfortunately, it happened again. But fortunately, it wasn't a goal. And what I mean by happened again was Watkins. Now, Watkins has to put that header in. He should not be allowing David Raya to even be given a chance to maybe save it. But David Raya saves again. And I must say now, big up to David Raya. Because, yeah, we've got everyone's had question marks over whether he should be the number 1. I've had question marks over I believe him to be in the level of an Alisson or an Edison. Do you know what? He's made 2 top-class saves in the first 2 games of the season. Last week, he kept us in it twice in the game against Wolves. And you have to say, he's done it again against Villa. He pulls off a brilliant save. First of all, it looks like he's getting lobbed. It comes off of Gabriel. It loops over his head. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh dear. Then when it comes off the crossbar, he falls down. The reaction to get up and put his hand back onto the headed ball from Watkins was a superb save. But I have to say, Watkins has got to do better. And I think Aston Villa fans today will be looking at him feeling very disappointed. Not because he was not very good, but because actually, not only was he ineffective and pretty invisible and had to come off, he missed 2 sitters. And that header was actually a sitter. I would say the first half chance was actually worse to miss because he's got all the time in the world. He's just got to slot it home. With the header, at least it was more of a kind of pressure reaction. But he still just has to give the keeper no chance of saving it. He's got to put that wide of the keeper. For him to just literally try and get it on target and nothing else, it always allows for the goalkeeper to have a chance of saving it. And I just don't think he should have given Raya that chance. But he did. And trust me, we needed that not to go in. Because that could have killed us off a little bit. That could have made it very difficult for Arsenal 100%. But we're still at 0-0. And in the second half, after that, we started to pick it up a bit. I actually felt like in midfield, they won quite a few battles. Morgan Rogers, take a bow, son. Real talk. You're a baller. He is going to be a fantastic talent for Villa. And he hasn't even really started yet for them. He was bought in January, looked like a good player. Now he's getting into their first team. And I must say, in central midfield, when he ball carries, it's very, very difficult to get near him. I was really, really impressed with him, man. I thought he was a very, very good player. And for me, he was one of the best players in terms of the outfield players anyway on the pitch. I think he was very close to getting the Player of the Match award should Villa not have lost this game. It's very hard to give a Player of the Match award to a team that's lost or a player from a team that's lost. But I tell you this now, I honestly believe he was the best player on the pitch in the outfield play. I thought he was outstanding. So I was really, really impressed with him. Onana, let's be real, they're going to be a good pair. I think Onana's got the physical attributes for it, although at times, let's be real, him, McGinn, who else was there? There's a couple of others rolling around on the floor. You're just thinking, what is happening here? I know that Havertz does it sometimes, but my goodness, they were down on the floor, rolling around. Embarrassing. John McGinn trying to give it to Saliba and losing. Ben White with his brilliant shithouser. He absolutely loved the fact that McGinn kicked the ball at Saliba. Saliba just stood up and went over to him to say, don't do that to me. And Ben White just launches the ball at him and just kicks it as hard as he can at McGinn. It's absolute class. For me, Ben White, superb. But Morgan Rogers deserves an absolute medal for how good he was going forward with the ball. I thought he was just incredible. So for me, player of the match for Villa was quite easily Morgan Rogers, and he is going to be a very important player for him. And it's one that people have forgotten about, you know. It really is. It's one that people have forgotten about in the Villa midfield because they talk about Barkley and Buendia coming back. They talk about Kamara and Onana now being in the defensive minds, and they've replaced Douglas Luiz. They've still got Tielemans. They've still got Jacob Ramsey. But my God, Morgan Rogers, let's be real. Actually, Morgan Rogers deserves a lot of praise today. But I'm not going to praise Villa for anything more than that because I felt like completely when needed, the game was changed. And that was when Bossardino come on. Trossard, the man that absolutely needs to be starting for Arsenal. I said yesterday, in the 12 goals that he scored in the Premier League last season, 7 of them were away from home. And he can now add another away goal and another away ground that he scored at. I thought he was superb when he came on. And the first touch, magnificent. Magnificent. The movement, the touch, the chaos he caused, the ball carrying, the dribbling, the technique. Yeah, he has to be one of the best players at Arsenal right now. And players like that have to start. Now, I understand, I saw the stat that came up about Trossard scoring the most goals by a substitute was Trossard. What does that mean? Has Arteta got him right as a super sub? Or should he actually just be starting because he's too good not to be? I kind of feel like it's the latter now. I don't think that Martinelli's performances have been put in well enough to keep Trossard out of the side. I'd understand if we were in a situation where, let's say, Cole Palmer or Anthony Gordon were banging in goals on that left-hand side, and it's like, oh, Trossard just can't quite get ahead of him. But let's be real, Trossard is better than Martinelli. He's a better footballer than Martinelli. He's technically gifted. He's better than Martinelli technically. He definitely brings a lot more to the game. He's definitely bringing goals that Martinelli isn't at the moment. And I actually believe that Trossard at the moment is actually probably one of the first names on the team sheet. I thought in pre-season he was phenomenal, particularly in the game against Bayer Leverkusen. And he's taken that form into the new season. And today, unreal performance by Leo Trossard. I have to say, man, I really do love everything about him. I was talking to the guys on Arsenal Roundabout, talking about Trossard as a player, and a lot of people were saying, yeah, he's like Santi Cazorla with his quick feet. I actually think he's like a mix between Freddie Ljungberg and Alexander Hleb. I think his movement is like Ljungberg, but I actually feel like his quick feet and his dribbling is just like Alexander Hleb. And I don't know how many of you go back that far to Ljungberg and Hleb's time that's listening, but trust me, if you don't, go and watch them both, and you'll be very, very surprised how similar they both are to Leandro Trossard. And I think he's moulded into both of those players because he's got the goals and the movement of Ljungberg, but he's got the quick ability and technical ability and dribbling ability and use of both feet and lightweight center of gravity like Alexander Hleb. I honestly believe this is a player that should be starting for Arsenal now. And Martinelli, I ain't giving up on this kid. This kid's 22 years old. You don't say he's dusted now, he's finished now. No, you don't. I'm hearing that on podcasts and on Twitter, and I'm thinking, what are you, man, on? This guy's 22 years old. But you know what I'd like to see happen? Sometimes I would like to see them interchange their positions a bit more. We all know Kai starts on 9. We also know that Bukayo Saka starts at right. And it's normally Trossard and Martinelli that are on the left-hand side. I actually think in games, using Havertz is fine. Sometimes in games, I'd rather use Havertz from the bench and I'd rather play Trossard through the middle or, dare I say it, Martinelli through the middle and try that a little bit more. Not throughout all the games, but just try it. In the games where, for example, we go 2-0 up, would it be a good idea to play Martinelli down the middle, to play Hleb, there you go, I think he's Hleb already, to play Trossard through the middle and try it a little bit differently there and allow Trossard and Martinelli just to kind of switch like this. You're now the 9, you're the 11, you're now the 11, you're the 9. And I use numbers all the time. I shouldn't really. You're now the left winger and you're now the striker, I should say. And then they switch it around like that. I think interchanging that would actually look a little bit better. And what it will do is it will confuse the defenders. Do you remember last season when we come back from Dubai and we were playing Trossard and Havertz, like linking up with each other? We didn't really see that again afterwards, and we haven't seen it this season so far. But I think maybe there's a couple of options for us to do that. And there might be opportunities for us to actually look at potentially switching them around a little bit, just to give the defenders a little bit of a confusion to think, okay, hang on a minute. Who's actually playing as the 9 here and who's playing as the left winger? At the moment, it's obvious there's a focal point in Havertz that he tries to link up the play, and you've got Saka on the right-hand side. Very predictable at the moment. I think we've got an opportunity to switch it up a bit. And obviously, to be fair, with Martinelli and Jesus, there are options at the moment that we can bring on from the bench when Jesus isn't injured. And that can definitely mix with the minds and think, right, who's playing where here? Arsenal mixing it up. I'm not quite sure who's left, right and centre anymore. That confuses defenses, 100%. So maybe there's an opportunity for that. Arteta's got to find a way to get Martinelli back into this 11 by him actually deserving to be there in terms of his goals and creativity and assists. But also Martinelli's got to look at his performance. I think I've probably been guilty of blaming everything around him a bit too much. I've been guilty of saying that he hasn't really got the right settled team on the left-hand side around him. Sometimes you've got to stop mollycoddling him. Sometimes you've got to allow a 22-year-old to be a 22-year-old and be a man and go and actually allow it to be, do you know what? I'm the right player to put in the left-hand side here. And I kind of feel like that's what we've not done with Martinelli. And I've been guilty of that. I can't sit there and say, well, it's wrong because Havertz has been dropping here and it's a different striker and it's a different left back and go, no wonder Martinelli's not doing well. And then go and see Trossard in the same position scoring goals. And scoring quite a few, by the way, 12 in fact last season and more. I think he scored 15 or 16 goals in all competitions last season. Something which Martinelli did the season before. So it is definitely a Martinelli issue now. It definitely is something in his mind. He's lost a bit of confidence. I don't think that he has actually lost much pace, but maybe he's lost a yard of pace. maybe he's got to get himself right. And at the moment, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look the same player. In the first 20 minutes of the game, Gary Neville was already picked up on it, saying, Martinelli doesn't look right. It doesn't look like the same Martinelli. I think for me, he has to be coached a little bit better. I think he definitely needs to keep his head up more when he's running. And I think there's ways that we can actually incorporate him into this game a bit more as well. So for me, I'm a huge, huge fan of the kid. He's one of my favourite players when he's on form. And Gary Neville did actually say that in the live commentary. When this guy's on form, he's absolute fire. Can Arsenal get him back on form? Can Martinelli find his head again? Can he bring that confidence back into the game? I really hope so. I really hope so. Because I do believe there's a baller in there. What I've got to see, though, is more consistent performances. And at the moment, I'm not seeing enough. I mentioned Declan Rice. I do think that he'll drop into the 6 and it will go into the 8 when Marino comes in. And I think that will help things. But then I've got to go to the second goal. The ball from Gabriel is phenomenal. I don't know if you saw, but when Trossard come on, he did mention that he'd spoken to Gabriel and you could see him having a chat. And he'd said, play these balls over the top to me. And if you remember, there was actually one he tried that he kind of decided against and didn't really work out. And then the next time you could see Trossard was like, why didn't you put me through? And then boom, Gabriel, what a ball. And by the way, no one's mentioned this. One of the best first touches you'll see in football from Leandro Trossard. One of the good crosses you'll see from Leandro Trossard. Now, nobody's there because, believe it or not, there's a striker issue at Arsenal and we need to find one and we need to buy one, but that's for another show. The ball comes to Saka and Ødegaard's there. I thought Ødegaard and Saka really picked it up in the last 20 of this game. I thought they were really good on the right-hand side. Saka passes it back to Thomas Partey. Now, I was looking and I said to my mum said, leave Partey on. Watching with my parents today, I didn't go to the game. I said, what, leave Partey on? And I thought, if he gets to 60, 65 and I start to see his legs go again, I'll be tempted to bring him off. However, I've got to say this, absolutely the right decision to leave him on because what a strike. Now, I know Emi Martinez has got to do better, but it's great to see that Thomas Partey actually smashed the ball miles over the bar in the first half, but wasn't afraid to have another shot in the second. And I don't mind people taking shots and it goes over. I really don't. I feel like you need that because the last thing I need is Arsenal to try and walk it in again. I don't want to be seeing that. I've seen that over the years and it don't work. But I was really impressed. And then we go 2-0 up. And Trossard, yet again, has created the start of that move. The movement is phenomenal. The way he spins the right back. Gary Neville actually said in the live commentary, I've got goosebumps thinking about how bad that is. I didn't use goosebumps. What did he use? Basically, he said, like, I'm kind of sweating on how much that right back is going to be thinking, oh my God, I have been completely done here. Leandro Trossard, he kind of moves forward, spins and goes back. And he spins the right back to a situation where the right back's like, yeah, you've done me, mate. Fair play. Puts the ball in, comes to Saka. Saka back out to Partey. Partey strikes it. It's 2-0 Arsenal. And I just felt then, although at 1-0 and it was 68 minutes, I looked and thought, long way to go here. At 2-0, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief because I did feel like 3 points was coming our way. And it's a massive statement win to go to Villa Park. You finally go and beat Emery in 5 attempts? We've beaten him once. He needed to get that 6th attempt to make sure he does it again. He's done that. For me, brilliant statement win. Absolutely phenomenal. And then do you know what I want to big up after that? Calafiori. He came on and won everything in the air. He is a unit, by the way. He's a big boy. And aerial ability, he looks very good. Just like Tomiyasu does, by the way. Yeah. I always thought Tomiyasu was the best in the air. I was very impressed with him. And then he was winning everything. A couple of tackles, a couple of interceptions. One of them was near the penalty area, by the way, which was extremely brave. And I must say that Timber and Calafiori, we need them at left back. Zinchenko, do you know what? Hats off. Offensively, fair play to him. But when we need to defend, like we did today, it was absolutely the right decision to play Timber and bring on Calafiori. Because he could have brought on Zinchenko, but he didn't bother. And I think what I need to see from Mikel Arteta is that when I need you to be offensive, I'll play Zinchenko. When I don't need you to be, and I need you to be solid, like at the Etihad and Anfield and Villa Park, St James Park, Stamford Bridge, these type of games where you go to, which are big games, White Hart Lane's another one, I expect to see Calafiori playing or Timber playing. I do. And today, I was really impressed by what I saw. I have to say that. I really was. And I just felt like it was good substitutions again. Trossard comes on and does his thing. Calafiori came on and did his thing. And I will big up Reece Nelson because actually, do you know what? People have forgotten about Reece and they've said that he needs to go. I agree. I think he does. But actually, he come on and did all right. He come on and give his all. And that's what I want to see from a player who looks like he's out the door, still giving his 110% for the shirt. He loves the club, man. Reece loves the club. I know people who know him. I know for a fact, if you cut through, you'll see red and white. You'll see the gun of Arsenal. Because trust me, you 100% see someone who will give his all for the club right until the end. So I think definitely he 100% will be leaving. There will be a suitor, and he definitely does need to leave. But it was good to see him come on and give 110%, man. Absolutely it was. Going to bring up a couple of super chats before I come into the next part of the show. This one comes in from TKA. Says, big up, Potts. This game proved that we need a striker. We're going to touch on that nicely because that's going to segue. Great result today. I'm buzzing on to the next game. Big up, Jason. Thank you so much for the super chats, both of you. I really appreciate that. Let's come back to this one. This game proved we needed a striker. Now, let me tell you why I agree with this. I was listening to a couple of people earlier who were saying, well, if anyone says we need a striker, I'm going to get the hump. Why? You can still win a game of football, score goals, and still need more. We 100% need a striker. Kai Havertz today, I didn't think had the best of games. There was a couple of times I saw him track back and win the ball. He did some nice passing. But other than that, offering something up front wasn't really much for me that he did well. I don't really believe it was a great game from him, if I'm honest with you. I really don't. So we definitely need a centre forward, man. I think it's quite clear. And people will go, 2 goals again, Potts, 91 last season. Yeah, we scored 91 last season. And who won the league? Not us. So a striker would add that and we try and get it towards 100 goals and we go win that league, right? We've always got to better ourselves and maximise the window. And that's why I still believe that we do need a striker. Big up to Don in the chat, man. Make sure you go follow Don, show him some love. Don CFC, you all know him on here from This is London and everything else that he's on. Saliba, Raya, and Trossard were top today. Yeah, my bro, they really were. Raya, fair save. Trossard, bossard, man, when he come on first touch, bang. Best finisher at the club, by all means. And I'm glad you brought up Saliba because for me, that's a player I haven't spoken about yet. I think he's the best defender in the league. Now, before people shout me down and say, no, he's not, it's Diaz, no, he's not, it's Van Dijk. I honestly do not see Diaz and Van Dijk doing what he's doing at the age of 22 consistently like that. The guy is an absolute monster. And when he does make a mistake, because it happens in football, people make mistakes, he's got everything about him to make up for it and recover. When Gabriel makes an error, he's there. When I see what he does on the ball and how comfortable he looks, I have the most confidence that he's going to win his one-on-one battles. I honestly believe he's phenomenal, mate. I honestly do. Now, I don't really like throwing the word world class around because nobody can understand what the definition is. People always have a different definition of world class. Would he get the best? Would he make the world 11? Would he get into the top 3 in his position? Is he the best top 5 centre-backs in the world? Is he this? Is he that? Would he make your team better? I don't care. If he ain't world class, he's close to it. Let me tell you that now, because he's walking into most centre halves. He's walking into most teams and being their centre half. Let me just tell you that now. The guy is a ridiculous centre half for his age, man. I tell you this now. He, for me, is probably the most important Arsenal player because if he goes down, we can't cover him, mate. Whether it's Tomiyasu, Timber, Ben White, Calafiori, Gabriel going over, I don't care who it is. We ain't replacing him, mate. He is ridiculous, mate. Ridiculous. And I look at him in the second half. I look at the performance. I look at the tackling. I look at the way he gets back and he tackles. I look at how comfortable he is on the ball. At one stage, he had 3 players around him. But I just see him as a top talent. I really do see him as a top talent. So for me, one of the players of the match in an Arsenal shirt that was on the pitch, obviously Raya, I totally get why. But for me, Saliba is the most important player. And I think he showed why today. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I look at what John McGinn was trying to do to him. It didn't work, John McGinn. It failed, mate. It failed. You got subbed off because you got so wound up. You were trying to rattle all the Arsenal players and the Arsenal fan base. Do you know what happened? You got subbed, mate. You got booked and subbed as well, by the way. And Ben White clattering that ball at him was absolutely beautiful to see. So, yeah, the only thing he could do was try and win Saliba, try and kick Saliba, and then end up getting absolutely muddied, rattled, and flattened, and then taken off. Don't like that John McGinn, man. I think Villa can do better without him. Trust me. There's better players in that midfield than him. Let's be real. So that's where I'm at with it, right? For sure. We go into this game thinking we absolutely have to get 3 points. But a lot of people I spoke to said, let's just get one. Nah. I weren't taking no draw today. We need to win. Why do we need to win? One, because for me, you have to get off to a great start. Two, there's harder games coming up. Three, we didn't win there last season. Four, Unai Emery is apparently better than Arteta, so prove that he ain't by beating him. And five, show the mentality for a statement win that we absolutely must this season. Because when I look at the games from last season and we walk away going, we didn't win at Villa Park, we didn't win at St James Park, we didn't win in the Etihad or Anfield again, we weren't able to get a result at Fulham away. We've got to go to those grounds this season and we've got to say we've learned. We've now won. Now, of course, you have to obviously win at the other games as well, right? But for me, I honestly believe they are the games I'm looking at more than any other. And I'm looking at them in a magnifying glass. And I did that today. I thought Arsenal, although we're quite lucky with how Watkins failed to score and put him maybe 2-0 up, I felt Arsenal could walk away and think, do you know what? We weren't lucky today. We didn't get away with one. It wasn't like it smashed someone's backside and went in 1-0 last minute. It wasn't a smash and grab like they were dominating us for 90% of the game. We walked away. We were the better team. We proved that by putting our chances away. They proved they weren't the better team by fluffing their lines. That for me means it's a good start for Arsenal. Now we go into some unbelievably difficult games. The reason I'm going to sit there and say it's actually 3 difficult games coming up, not just Man City, Tottenham as a 2. It's a 3 is because of how well Brighton are looking going forward. They can definitely be got at, don't get me wrong. Brighton can. At the back, definitely in midfield, they can be dominated. But up top, they've got some firepower, man. And I'm not just talking about Danny Welbs, that boy Welbs, who, by the way, fair play to you, son. I'm talking about Minter. I'm talking about João Pedro, I thought today was immense. I'm talking about Mitoma, who I've always rated. I'm talking about players like Evan Ferguson that's coming on from the bench. Georgilia Rutter, who wasn't even playing today and had to be brought on. These are players that have firepower, that know where the goal is. Fair play to the manager, by the way, because he's got them playing. I didn't look at them and go, wow, but he has got them playing at least within the first couple of games. They were very good against Everton. And I think they deserve to beat Man United, if I'm honest. I really do. I don't think that Man United looked very good at all. Defensively, they were a shambles. I don't know what they're doing defending at the end. But Brighton are a team that are going to come to the Emirates with a hell of a lot of confidence. And we've got to absolutely shut that down. People will be looking at Spurs and Manchester City already away. But trust me, we have to concentrate on Brighton. It's a fixture that over the years has been a bogey club, particularly at the Emirates, by the way. Can think of 3 games we've lost there already in the, 7-8 years that Brighton have been up. So for me, I have to be real. I have to look at that fixture and say, I've got question marks over it because they're a good side. They beat us last year in the League Cup. The year before that, they ruined one of our title race runnings at the end. And I think the season before that, they ended up beating us and ruining us for our top 4 race. Or was it the season before that? Yeah, the season before that. So I have to look at that and say, do you know what? Fair play. They're a team that are serious. They are. And I think there will be a lot of Brighton fans that will have a lot of confidence right now. At the moment, whether you laugh at this or not, it's a top-of-the-table clash. Now, it's not the top-of-the-table clash in the same way that Aston Villa were, because Aston Villa, respectively, have been there and should be there. Brighton are there at the moment because they've done well at the start, and I expect Brighton to come in full of confidence. They had to go to Goodison Park and host Manchester United. It's not like they've beaten Southampton and Leicester at home. So they've won 2 very good games, and they'll come into the Emirates with confidence. Do we change anything up? For me, Zinchenko stays out the team here because of the pace that Brighton have got. We need Calafiori, in my opinion, or Timber to start that game at left back. And then Trossard has to come in, particularly for the game against Brighton, right? If it's going to be any game that he starts, it's got to be this one because he knows Brighton like the back of his hand. So he's got to start in this one coming up. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to do more to preview that game. But for me, They're the two players that need to play. I do not think Zinchenko needs to start in this one. And yes, I did see Zinchenko's face when he was on the bench, and he didn't look very happy. In fact, none of them did. But why would they be happy? They're on the bench. They want to be playing, right? So that's the way to see it. I have to say, today impressed me. I've got to big up the manager. He got the team selection correct. Maybe you could say that Trossard should have started, but when you look at the game, he came on and changed it. So really, some would suggest that Mikel Arteta got the substitutions right. I thought the substitution of Calafiori was very interesting. Are they moulding him in? Sophie and I were speaking last night about the players that he trusts to throw straight in. Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, David Raya, Julian Timber, although he did get injured last season. But some of the others, he's let them cook, hasn't he? He's let them cook, and he's done that with Calafiori. It was very interesting when he said in his interview that he's only just landed. Well, let's be real, that's a lie. He hasn't just landed. He went to America with him. He started to play in a little bit of the pre-season, and he's now just been brought on. So he hasn't just landed, but he's obviously getting used to it. The left wing position does worry me with Martinelli, but it doesn't with Trossard. I'm not ready to give up on Martinelli yet. And as I said to you earlier, I still think there's a chance for us to look at trying to do something a little bit different with Martinelli and Trossard and trying to interchange them a little bit. That's the way I see it. But when it comes to Arsenal, I honestly do believe that that is a massive statement that we've made. There's a lot of rival fans that would have been tuning in tonight, rubbing their hands together. Villa are going to beat Arsenal again. This will be fun to watch. You all know it. And now, silence. Silence from the rival fans. There'll be some rival fans' tears, I'm sure. But trust me, rival fans are silent. There's no popcorn tonight. There's no fireworks being let off because Arsenal have lost it or, bottled it, that they would have said. Trust me, it was a good performance in the end. It was a good result. And in fact, it was an even better result. Because the first half performance was fairly walking football, as I call it. It was quite stale. It was quite boring. It was quite slow. But we grew into the game towards the latter part of the second half. And it really was that man, Leandro Trossard. It really was, man. It really was. We can relax. We can watch Match of the Day in peace. And do you know what we could do tomorrow? Don, if you're listening, make sure you do not drop points to Wolves, my friend. No pressure, bruv. No pressure. I want to end it by talking very quickly about the transfer window. I don't want to go into this fan cam talking about how we still need players because today's about the result, right? Today's about here he is. Don't worry, G. We must. Do you know what? You must. And do you know what, bruv? On Wednesday, Lawless is going to be buzzing. D's going to be cooked. He's going to be mudded, bruv. Me and Gunali will be fine, and do you know what? Deji will too. So make sure you're joining us and not D, my bro. Make sure. Bruv, it's all love, man. You must. Big up Don, man. Make sure you go follow Don, man. If you're not following Don CFC, what the hell are you doing, man? One of the best out there, man. You got to go follow him. Absolute legend. So please make sure you show him some love. But listen, Arsenal have got to look at this transfer window seriously. And I want to end this seriously because for me, I do believe they've got something up their sleeve in the last 6 days. If they haven't, I really am starting to worry. Calafiori's come in. We're good defensively. Marino's come in. Looks like we're good midfield-wise. But in the attacking areas, I still feel we're a little bit weak. I look at Eddie and Reece Nelson sitting on the bench and I'm thinking that just can't happen for the remainder of this season. And it makes me feel really disrespectful to them. I'm not insulting them. They just aren't that level. Eddie and Ketia, I wish you all the best at Nottingham Forest. Emil Smith-Rowe scored today. I wish you all the best at Fulham. When it comes to Reece, go and find yourself a club and I wish you all the best. Yeah? They will always have our blessing. They'll always be looked at and loved. Just like some of the players that I've moved on in the past, like Ox, like Iwobi, like Welbs, all these guys that have gone on to do stuff, Theo Walcott. I never went bad on them guys, ever. Because you know why? They gave 110%. They never moaned. They never shouted people down. They never got annoyed with wages. Not like man like Mustafi and Socrates and Mesut Ozil and even Aubameyang, to be fair, in the latter part of it, right? I'll always give these guys definite credit because they gave 110%. And those guys that I've just said, they needed to get out. There's a difference, right? For me, when I look at this transfer window right now, there's 6 days left. We've got rid of Smith-Rowe. We're getting rid of Eddie. Reece Nelson looks like he's moving on, and Fabio Vieira's gone on loan to Porto. There's 4 players gone, and who's replaced them? Ethan Nwaneri. That's it. So there's the potential to say that unless we want to make sure our squad is smaller and decrease our squad, then we might need to go and get 3 players in 6 days. An attacking midfielder, a winger and a striker. And you know what? We wouldn't have to if Jesus weren't injured. If Jesus was still around, we'd have our wide man and we just need an attacker. Or we'd have our attacker and we just need a wide man that can play in the middle, like an Eze that can play in both. But because of that, it kind of feels like we need more than one. Now, I've always said, go and get Eze and Gyökeres, and we're kind of cool. Because we've got our striker. Eze can play 10 and wide right or wide left as well, and left centre mid, to be fair. He can play in a number of positions. And we're sorted. But I haven't seen that yet. Fabi Vieira has gone. That means Erdegaard's cover at the moment is Ethan Nwaneri or Havertz if he drops into that 10. So maybe people will think that's okay. But if Havertz is dropping, that means we need a striker or a winger again, right? Because Jesus is now injured for a few weeks. So we've got to go and get that buy. If we end up keeping Eddie and Nelson because of the injury to Jesus, it will be incredibly disappointing. Incredibly. So that's where I'm at. And I'm finishing it there, people. 6 days left. Go and do a madness, Edu and Arteta, please. Because right now, I don't see us winning the league because Manchester City look better than us. But if you was to throw an Eze and a Gyökeres in there, I honestly believe we've got all the pieces to the puzzle to allow us to go and compete massively with Manchester City and get us across the line. That's what I'm saying. Big up to Arsenal. It's 2-0 against Villa. We showed mentality. Massive statement win. And as I say, Trossard does it again. Trossard again. Ole, ole. We'll see you next time, people. Take it easy. And as always, up the Arsenal. Laters.